Hello, listen to the interview series of Trancefusions with Vernski. This month we're meeting up with Wes Straub, all the way from Mexico. It was a great interview and we talked about a wide range of topics, and I really hope you enjoy listening to the conversation. So just before we did the interview, both Wes and I picked a favourite track of his. My favourite is Sunrise Over Zamana, the 2016 beach version, released on Joof Recordings. Don't forget to check out episode 33 of Trancefusions, where Wes is the featured guest artist and DJ for the month. Coming up now is the interview with myself and Wes. Well, it's good to have you here on Trancefusions, and you're on episode 33. And
Oh, wow.
Mr. Wes Straub is here.
Hello, hello.
So I watched that little interview you had the other day with that. It was a Mexican dude, wasn't it? It was a cyclist or something. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, it's a friend of mine. He used to actually be the director of sports and recreation for the city that I live in.
Yeah.
So he's Mr. Athlete, and he was trying to figure out how I do DJ stuff and try to do athletic stuff at the same time.
So he was actually talking about a nasty accident you had.
Yeah, no, it was a couple of years ago, and it was actually the day before I was supposed to fly to Burning Man, where I flew off my bike, landed in the middle of the highway, and broke my collarbone to bits.
Wow.
So needed surgery the day of here, and then ended up getting on a plane 2 days later and still making it to Burning Man.
And DJing okay? That was all good?
Yeah, with one arm as best as possible.
You can't do any love hearts with just one arm, can you?
No.
So before my power went out, I had a bunch of notes that was sitting on my screen here, and I've got it written down, but I had it all just sitting there nicely. There's a few things I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
But I guess the first thing is, and this is an interesting thing, that Adam Thomas he had made a comment based on the last episode, and he said that artists and people that are like yourself, you kind of become these abstract sort of MP3 personas on someone's hard drive. It's actually good to be able to break that all down and get to know you and get to know other people. But for me, you were that sort of enigmatic kind of MP3 person that is, I wonder I wonder what he's like. So I guess I just wanted to ask you sort of how, in a really tiny nutshell, like how did we end up right here, right now, like chatting from the beginning?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I could start back. So I've been kind of in the electronic music scene for about 18 years now.
Yeah.
Started off in Canada, just like anybody else, paying way too much for vinyl and playing a lot of underground parties. We started a group in Canada that threw a lot of psytrance parties outdoors in the summertime. So went through that, and then along the way started a radio show, which I've stubbornly kept was in year 12 now. So, and that's been interesting because especially back 10, 12 years ago, radio shows had a lot bigger impact than they do now. I used to get bookings based on that radio show, and I've met a ton of people online around the world just who have tuned in. They've sent out a message saying, hey, and then, 6 years later, I actually meet the person either in person or, online like we are.
Yeah.
And then, come full circle, I decided to join into Tim Penner's music course, and there you were, and had some laughs in there, and here we are.
Yeah. That's actually kind of like nailed a few questions I had organized just with your little nutshell story. But jumping back to the podcast, you'd say that it's a bit diluted now, that there's just so many people out there that are doing it?
Yeah, well, I mean, the access to music has never been easier, right? Like you have Spotify, and you still have radio stations like Digitally Imported and the rest that are, broadcasting 24/7.
Yeah.
Back when I started my radio show, there wasn't as many stations, and it was actually really costly and expensive to try to do that sort of thing, just because the bandwidth wasn't there, the speed wasn't there. So it was a little bit bigger of a deal to actually have your own show. I mean, I remember when my first show played, I was all excited that, I turned it through my stereo, and I'm like, oh my God, my show's online, and this and that. And it was great back then too, because I used to have the other hour to have special guests on. So that allowed me to, meet other DJs and producers that were in kind of the same boat. Like I met Darren Epsilon, for example. I had him on as a guest, like my 10th episode or something. Was back when he...
I was going to say, is he already massive then, or...?
No, he was kind of in the same boat as me. He was, I think he was still living in Chicago at the time.
Yeah.
And we kind of got to be friends over the few years, and it was interesting to watch him grow. Like he moved to LA, pursued it full time, and then got bigger and bigger and bigger, and we all stayed in touch, and now he's living in Berlin. But back then you had all these guys that were really pushing hard on the music front, and so it was good to kind of see some of the guys use that as a platform to get to where they are.
So it is a sort of the legit, kind of like the hard work back then was legit hard work, but you got the payoff from it as well. Yeah.
No, I think people back then were a lot more interested in, finding radio shows or broadcasts really liked, and they invested a bit more into it, because like now, I mean, you just go on Spotify, and if you don't like it in the next 5 minutes or 5 seconds, you can switch to something else. So that was a really great platform for getting the music out originally, and getting connections through there, and eventually like getting some bookings just based on sets you put together for a radio show. Plus back then too, now you could just whip something together in Ableton and at a coffee shop and you have a radio show. Back then it was, you had to mix the whole thing in one shot, make sure it sounded good, and it was like a real DJ set.
I think I mentioned this in the last show. I've come in late in the game, and it's kind of all I know. I guess like when I've read through sort of tips and stuff like that to try and get your name, someone's name out there. But the thing that they talk about is that to create those sets and share them on Facebook and share them here and share them there. But it's I find that for me it's been a lot of hard work, and it's only really now probably in year. I took almost a year off, but let's just say 3 years. It's only 3 years. That's only just starting to get that sort of like a hardcore group of people. How many sort of hardcore people do you think you had when you were, I guess, making an impression out there? Is it like 10, 20, 50 people that were just like proper devoted fans?
I mean, it was hard to tell because so I'm still on 5 different stations right now. And between those radio stations, there's usually about 5,000 listeners at any given time.
Yeah.
And then through my website, I have all the sets available for download, but you need to give me your email address to be able to get them.
Yeah.
I've been able to get about 4,000 people sign up that way. So that's been really good. But it's, when Facebook came along and all these different platforms came along, that's when it made it really easy for the whole world to jump up and down and shout and say, this is who I am. So man, when you're starting out now, it's a lot easier to do the music, but it's a lot more difficult to get it heard.
Yeah. And I guess that ties into, so what was it like for you to start, did you start dabbling in producing in that, or you just felt like you just wanted or needed to do it?
More started dabbling more than anything, because I tracks that I absolutely loved back when I started DJing, I always wondered how they were made, and I always thought, I'm like, ooh, what if I could make something like this? And I mean, once you start dabbling, it's down the hole, like right down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You know how it is. You just start tinkering, and you make something that sounds a little bit good, and it gets you excited, and you do more and do more. The biggest lesson I learned in producing is it's easy to get something to sound 90% good, but that last 10%, that takes years.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been doing it for years, but I can actually speak with 100% honesty as far as just yesterday trying to get an extra couple of percent out of what I was working on, and it was just countless hours. And not too much to show for it.
You get dialed into one tiny little thing, and it's tricky. So,
before DJing, what sort of made you want to do the DJing side of things originally?
Well, I grew up listening to like heavy metal, and then like Tool and Ministry and things like that. And as I got older, the music I got into started to become a little more, not weird, but a little more interesting with, you know, more elements than just a guitar and long hair. And then when I went to university, where I went to university was a small little town of about 100,000 people. And they had this one bar there that we went to 3 nights a week. And they brought in this guy who started playing, like, you know, back then it was like big room trance. And we were all like, what is this? This stuff's crazy. And, like, you know, we just absolutely loved it. And then after that, I went to a few parties where I actually saw guys playing, like, you know, vinyl and turntables, and got pretty interested in. And then one day I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to bite the bullet and spend the money and do this. And yeah, because I had a few friends that were already doing it, and I'm like, that looks like a lot of fun. So then, you know, it was a good opportunity to get together with friends, play music, share music, and just kind of hang out. And
Yeah.
It sounded terrible for the first couple of years, but it was all part of the learning process. Like my wife would literally stick her head out of the bedroom, and she would just shake it. She's like, no. Shoes in her dryer.
So what time period was this? This is 90s or early 2000s?
That was right around the year 2000.
Yeah.
Right at the time when, I mean, I first started out in trance. That was that era when trance was at its best and progressive was, you know, falling right behind. I mean, the record that kind of got me into DJing was actually 7 Cities by Solar Stone. I think I had every version of that record. So
they've made a ton of remixes of that over the years, like gazillions of them.
Yeah, I mean, it was just such a beautiful track, and I'm like, whoa, this has got me hooked. Yeah.
Actually, that reminds me, have you seen that movie, It's All Gone Pete Tong?
Oh, yeah. Love that movie.
Yeah. But that's because that has a few of the actual legends there at the time that they even got onto the movie itself. But there was some good tracks in there that I imagine probably would have been ones that you would have gone like, yeah, I want to do something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was interesting too, because I loved all of those sounds. But then when I got into actually DJing, the guy, one of my friends, he owned the local record store, and he was a big progressive guy. And so he kind of introduced me to more of the deeper progressive side of things, which back then was still at 130 BPM.
Oh, that's exactly what I was going to say. That was that fast style progressive that.
Yeah. Like he introduced me to like the whole global underground sound, and then, you know, eventually I got every Nick Warren compilation there could be, and that's what kind of got me hooked on that. And it was it was the easiest style of music to actually buy back then. Those big trance records didn't seem to make it around very much, and if they did, then everybody had them. Yeah, back then it was a fight to get your hands on an individual record, because there's no just copying it or duplicating it really easy.
Nah, well, that's the double-edged sword of today's music. And I remember when I first started lurking around DJ forums and that, and just reading a lot of that stuff, because it was all real foreign to me. But like I learned that, hunting for vinyls was a thing, and then getting those limited edition ones that I don't know, what's the smallest amount that would get printed? Just a couple of 100 or 50 or? Yeah,
well, they would do, it was called white labels, and those were basically what promos were back then.
Yeah.
So some record labels would do a run of 20 or 30 of those, like, and just send them to select record shops. But the great thing about where I grew up in Canada is, so again, my friend who owned the record store, he was part of the Balance record pool, and there was only 40 DJs in the world that were actually part of this record pool.
Yeah.
So he got sent crates of records and all white labels, like, you know, one-offs. And so you come into the record store, and whatever he didn't want, he'd bring it out to you. So you were getting top of the line stuff without having to, you know, try to hunt for it yourself.
Actually, I mean, that's the thing, like with music, you can have those tracks. I mean, I even do it myself, where you might listen to one and go, nah, that's okay, but I might buy it, but I don't play it. But then you actually give it a play, and then you play it again, and then you start to...
Yeah, you start to appreciate it.
Yeah, and I guess that's with these white labels, that the fella takes them and he just takes what he wants, but then there's no doubt there's gems that are left in those
Oh,
crates.
tons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was we used to do that every Saturday. We'd head down to the record shop at about 10 in the morning when it opened, and there'd be 3 or 4 of us there till 5 in the afternoon. And we'd leave there with a pile and no money in our wallets and come back next week.
Do you miss it? Do you still do it in some way, or any vinyl at all, or not anymore?
Right now, well, since I moved to Mexico, all my vinyl is sitting in a storage unit in Canada right now, in a bunch of crates. There's no better. I love playing vinyl.
Yeah.
Just because it's such you can't blink for a second without paying attention to it. And I love the feel of it and just kind of the old school vibe of it. I mean, I like playing on any kind of thing. I mean, really, it's at the end of the day, it's about the music coming out of the speakers. But yeah, I mean, as a guy who started on vinyl, it's kind of like that nostalgic thing.
Yeah, well, I confessed to Steve last month that I've never, except for one time with my mate Chris Hines, who lives in Perth, and I remember I was down staying his place, and I had just probably like a 10-minute go on it for the first time, and I wouldn't do it more than 10 minutes because it was I just I would do it if I had it, but what I'm going to say is that it was terrible, absolutely.
It's completely different than what you use now.
Yeah, I mean, just so you do. I take it for granted just having waveforms and cue points and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. I think you use you can use a little bit of tape or something, or what do you do to mark a spot on your record if you want to know where to put it, like to drop it, or do you have to work that out?
Well, I mean, scratch DJs will put tape all over their vinyl, but I mean, no, you back then you had less quantity of music, so you got to know every record really well, and you could see in the grooves, where breakdowns are and where the starting point was, and you just had to go by memory.
So there was waveforms in there somehow. You sort of found them, even though there weren't any.
Yeah, and it was really funny that so back when I was in Canada, I had this younger friend of mine. He wanted to learn how to DJ, so one day he brought over his whole computer setup and plugged it in my speakers, and I just looked at him like, no, shut that off. And so I put down 2 kind of minimal techno records that were just more, kicking a snare drum, basically both of them. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, well, what's the problem? He's like, well, there's nothing. I can't see if the tracks are lined up.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing right now? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you're playing music. Yeah. Well, use your ears. He's like, what do you mean use my ears? I'm like, well, yeah, it was pretty funny when that experience, because he just started kind of doing it, and one record started going out, and it was just a complete disaster.
Yeah. Well, I think I'd be the same, to be honest.
No, it takes time. So.
Yeah. So with gigging, you were busy last weekend, weren't you?
No, it's this week. Well, last weekend too. I played Thursday, I played Saturday, and then this week I play Wednesday, tomorrow night, and then Friday night.
I mean, I don't know you that well. I'm getting to know you better right now this second, but one of the things I have noticed about you is you seem to have a knack for networking and being able to get yourself into those little spots. Would you say it's a strength of yours, to be able to network well? Or
I would say so. I mean, my day job, I work in branding and marketing. Yeah. So a lot of that. I mean, I'm a graphic designer by trade, but I do a lot of marketing stuff. So it definitely translates over. And I've never been afraid to reach out to someone I don't know and send them a message and say, hey, But the thing I've found is you got to be very careful with stuff like that, because again, everybody can do that now. You can go on Facebook and message someone you don't know, and guys like, who the hell is this?
And this is the ELF situation, isn't it?
What's that?
The ELF, the entitled little fuck.
Oh yeah.
I think you.
Yeah, no, it's and especially after I've been in Mexico for 4 years now. Yeah, and here is, if you want a response from somebody, you almost have to, it's an exchange. You have to give them something for them to respond to you.
Yeah.
Or like show that you have something of value, because, and there's so many guys hustling down here and they just get ignored. And I got ignored here by lots of places, and you just be persistent. And, you know, what's helped me is not asking for stuff, like just being like, hey, here's a new set of mine. Take a listen if you like. Just to a few people. You don't have to like blast everybody with everything. It's, again, you build 2 good relationships and you'll get gigs for as long as you want.
Yeah.
But those relationships can be really hard to come by.
Have you got like a gig that you'd even look back on now and go, that was my best one ever, for whatever reason? Crowd involvement?
There's a few pretty big highlights. Back in Calgary, in Canada, I used to be the guy that was called upon every time Marcus Schultz came to town. So I opened those shows. And then I also opened a festival for John Double Fleming. That was a really big one. And then since I moved to Mexico, again, building a relationship with, you know, one person, all of a sudden I got a call one day and said, hey, you and RPO are going to open for Sasha. What?
Nice.
So that was a big one down here too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, those come in waves. Like you'll go a year or two without kind of anything, and then all of a sudden you'll get a message one day and be like, hey, do you want to do this show? And what?
Yeah. Yeah. So how sort of much contact are you in with RPO?
Well, he lives in the same town I do. Just, you know, probably about a 10-minute drive from here.
Yeah.
I'm in touch with him a little bit. He's he's a pretty introverted guy.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Stays in his studio, and I mean, he is probably the whitest guy in Mexico.
he's
but I mean, the guy's a wizard when it comes to music production. Like I did a remix for him a while back, and I sent him to him, and he's like, why do you have a compressor on like this and this and this? And I asked him, like, how could you even tell like what channel or track I had a compressor on?
Yeah.
And he's like, what? And with his French accent, he's like, well, you can't treat it like a video game. Don't make it shit.
Actually, I don't have a story, but I do have, I guess it is a little bit of a story about him. I've never met him, but I did discover him by accident on Beatport maybe 4 years ago, I think it was. But It was from his garbage label.
Garbage Records, yeah.
Yeah, and some of his RPO stuff. But when I looked, he disappeared. Like he'd sort of been making music and then he just stopped.
Yeah.
And then
I know why. Yeah.
You know, because then he just reappeared, because it sort of coincided with John W. Fleming, I think, started to pick up a couple of his tracks, which I did hear one when I was in Melbourne. And I didn't understand this part of the business, but I remember I heard this I didn't realize at the time, but it was an RPO track. I totally loved it. And then I went looking for it and I couldn't find it anywhere, that track. And it didn't come out till 6 months later on Trip. But yeah, he sort of was there and then he stopped, and then he's just pumping out music now. So can you say why he disappeared, or it's?
Yeah, he with his own 2 hands built a ridiculously nice bed and breakfast down here.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's beautiful, beautiful place. And he literally built it, like he molded the bricks. He did all the work like by himself and built this immaculate jungle, like bed and breakfast. And it's got plants, it's got trees going through the bathrooms, and it's a crazy place. And you know, that was that time when he didn't make music the whole time that he was building that. And I think it took him a couple of years to build it.
Yeah. So that's all done, and so he's back.
Yeah. And it was a funny story about that, because it was his birthday a couple of years ago. And so National Geographic came down. They wanted to do a photo shoot and an article in their magazine about his bed and breakfast, because it was like this big eco-friendly artistic place. But Rick didn't want to do it. Rick didn't want his picture in National Geographic. He's like, well, no, it's about the place. It's not about me and all this stuff. And so at that time, I I was trying to go as long as I could without drinking any beer.
Yeah.
So I'm month number 3. So we went over there for his birthday, and they're very French. So like they don't have water, they have wine.
Yeah.
And so we ended up making a trade-off where I said, I'm like, I'll have a drink right now if you put this damn place in National Geographic.
Yeah.
Well, I had the drink, but it never went to National Geographic, so he still owes me that.
So he got you to break your sobriety instead.
Yeah. But yeah, it's he's a talented artistic guy and like musically, and then the place he did was just so there's two different things that I was like, you did this, but you also do this. Wow, that's
Actually, what is his background? Does he just know how to build stuff? Is that part of his thing, or?
I think he just knows how to build stuff. So because I mean, he's been in music forever. Like he told me stories. He used to be like an audio engineer for Lenny Kravitz at one time.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and you know he would tell stories of like when he would do a release on vinyl, and you know the record company would invest in printing 4,000 copies of the record, and he would get a nice big fat check. And like you talk about old school, that he's old school.
Yeah. So because those audio engineer guys, they've just got highly trained ears and stuff, don't they? They just yeah. So I guess that's how he knew you were compressing stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, wow. Speaking of Mexico, I had Joy Marquez on the show, I think episode 30. Do you have much to do with Joy at all, or not? You paths don't cross really?
Never crossed paths with him, but got a lot of his music.
Yeah. He's tied in with. That's how I discovered him, was through the Garbage Records and that. And
him and Rick are good friends, I think, because he's been on a number of the RPO releases.
Yeah.
Really good music.
So with I know you already told me before about going to Mexico. The main reason was purely the weather.
And a change too. I mean, Canada and the US are kind of, they're almost the same, except Canada's colder. But where we were from is very much of a rat race mentality. It's like, work your ass off, get a big house, get a big vehicle, get a picket fence, have 2 kids, and your life that's it.
Yeah.
And, my wife and I didn't really fit that mold. And she worked for 12 years doing sales and got pretty burnt out after a while. She did really well, but again, it's like, what are you sacrificing? Yeah. And, we weren't going to have kids, and we're like, well, and my job turned into something where I could do it from anywhere because it's all online. So we're like, why don't we move somewhere else? And so we'd been down to this part of Mexico quite a bit. So this was a pretty natural evolution to come down here.
And look, I've seen your pictures on Facebook, and you just seem to be living a life down there, honestly. It looks really good.
It is good. But the thing I tell people though is, living down here is not like vacation down here. Yeah. Every place you live, like there's always a certain set of challenges, and there's really good things, and then there's things that you're like, oh God, I'm dealing with that again. Yeah. Like Mexico's it's a different pace of life, and there's some of the efficiencies and things we take for granted in Canada just do not exist here.
Is that like the bureaucracy?
Bureaucracy, and just things work a lot slower, and they love their paper trail, and the 2 words that I always say don't exist here are number 1, accountability, and number 2 is consistency. Because you have a hard time counting on anything being the same or being reliable, and nothing is consistent ever. You go to a restaurant one day, they'll have one thing, next day they'll have another thing, next day they'll have a different staff. But on the flip side, the food down here is amazing. So life is a lot better. Like, it's a lot slower. You take time to say hi to people. You take time to talk to people. You walk everywhere because it's warm. It's just it's a lot better health-wise.
And you're a healthy dude. by the sounds of it.
Well, I try to be.
Yeah. Lots of exercise and that?
Yeah, no, I do quite a bit of, I cycle, I play beach volleyball, I do yoga, I go to the gym. I mean, you hit the 40-year mark and you start to value those things.
When did you hit that? Just now, recently, or?
Yeah, I turned 40 in January.
Yeah. Well, I'm in a similar boat, just a tad older, but yeah. But it is funny how when you're young, you can bounce back from things better. So you kind of you abuse your body more, and you kind of you get by. But then recovery is worse when you're older. But then you're smart about it, so you're kind of doing the same output. But you were pretty fit though in general, though, weren't you? Overall.
Yeah, overall. And the thing that's funny about being down here is when there's, on the other side of it, when you're going out for a night or there's an event, like it's at a whole new level down here. Like things don't get going till 1 or 2 in the morning, and 6 a.m. It's just getting busy.
Yeah.
We did a show last summer in the jungle with Ken. He's on Lost and Found and all those labels from Israel.
Israel.
Oh, you're still there.
Yeah, someone's dropping up. You.
And I opened. Oh, it might be my Mexican connection. That seems to be better now.
Because you were talking about inconsistencies and stuff like that.
Battling the internet speed is one of them. Yeah, we did a show with Ken last year, and I opened the show playing 11 till 2, and then he played 2 to 6. Well, the busiest time at that show was 8 a.m.
No way. So
it went till I came home, I went to sleep, I got up, went back on Facebook, and there's still a Facebook Live video at 2 in the afternoon.
So is everybody just sleep, I guess, during the day, and they just prime themselves for that night out and morning? Is that what it is, or?
Yeah, and I mean, the narcotic scene here is pretty. I mean, the drug cartel runs pretty much anything involved with those events. There's some kind of influence from the drug cartel here too. So everything's widely accessible. So there's people who don't sleep for days.
Yeah.
BPM used to be like that, and now this year in Tulum, which is about an hour away from where I am, there's a month of big events going on from New Year's till middle to end of January.
So with the cartel-y stuff, I guess people like me that are just on the other side of the world, we only see certain bits, news-related bits. And is it as bad as it's portrayed or reported? Because I hear things about, just countless amounts of people getting killed and left in places and stuff like that. Is that what you got to be worried about, or is that just a bit of sensationalism with the media?
It is and it isn't. I mean, it does exist. There are 2 to 3 drug cartels here doing business at any given time.
Yeah.
The thing about it, though, it's not like they're randomly just killing tourists and everything else. And when they do decide to act up, it's usually against each other, and it's way off in the jungle. Because the thing they don't want to do is not have their customers come here. So people coming on vacation and everything else. But it's kind of one of those things that always has you a little bit on edge. I remember the one year at BPM, there was a few people from, I think, the UK or Europe somewhere, and they came out of the bathroom and they were blown away because there's cartel guys in the bathroom selling anything you want, and they're just there in the open, and cops are not around or anything, and they're like, how does this even happen? I'm like, this is the way it is down here. Yeah. So no, it's kind of tricky, and being in the music scene, you're never far away from it either. So you just have to be really careful, because one day they'll be your best friend. Like if you're throwing an event or anything, and the next day like they'll be your enemy.
Yeah. Well, I imagine it has to be as crazy as you're saying it is, because I know just from my own experiences, even just playing at like the first little party I ever played, I was on a beach, and there was just one random girl came up to me and asked me if I had cocaine. And that's the first time, this was like 3 years ago, and that's the first time in my whole life that someone had ever come up to me and asked me if I had some gear, ever. So it was a bit of a shock to me. So I can imagine like where you are and those cartels, you know, being able to openly do it must be just pretty crazy, really.
It's a little disconcerting. I mean, like I can walk down the street right after this interview, and within a few blocks, some guy will ask me if I want weed or cocaine. And I'm like, no, it's not 10 o'clock yet.
Oh my God. Wow. I actually I don't know why I didn't have that written down as a question, because I should have. I guess jumping back to Tim Penner Sessions, how did you actually end up doing it, and what led you down that road?
Well, I mean, I've been friends with Tim for a while. I've never met him in person, but just online kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I found over the past year or two, I was kind of really getting in a rut production wise. And then especially you mix, a regular day job, as you know, when you get busy, your music time just gets thrown completely out the window. And then you sit down for a couple hours and you're just creatively stunted and just snowballs into nothing. So I saw when it came up, and I've never really worked on anything together with other people and seen how they produce music.
Yeah.
So that came up, and I'm like, oh, this, I kind of want to see how Tim does it, because, he's got a very similar style of music to what I have, and it'd be interesting to see, how another guy does it who's, accomplishing something.
Yeah.
And so that for me, like, I obviously knew a lot of the stuff that Tim knew already, but the way he framed things and just kind of the way he worked on things, I got quite a bit out of it. So
yeah, and
I love the community aspect of it too, because there's connections such as yourself and like Madeline and a few others that those are last relationships now. So
yeah, I actually was going to ask you about some, I guess, what you picked up on workflow wise, or any differences, or even things you just consciously decided to change. Have you changed anything the way you do? You just adapted what you've done, what you do with what you've seen through the course?
More adapt. I mean, I'm still taking a crack at switching from Logic to Ableton. But what I found, I ended up doing, I discovered last week, is because now that I've been in live for a while, I've figured out the things I really like about live. And so now I went back in Logic and seen if I could do things the same way, because there's things about Logic which, in my mind, just destroy live completely. I'm so used to a lot of the plugins in Logic that the ones in live, I'm like, oh, where's my nice reverb plugin? Where's my delay plugin? What I found is now my workflow, I think, is going to change to where I love the session view in live, because you can experiment so much. But I think what I'm trying with this new track I'm working on is, now that I've got some stuff locked in the session view that I really like, I just export the MIDI and bring it into Logic, and then because the arrangement in Logic works for me a lot better. That's probably not a bad idea, is it, for you to use both? Yeah, no, I mean, it's a little bit of a pain to export all the MIDI out of live, but it's whatever you're comfortable with, right? And I've been in Logic for 10 years, and I know the arrangement view in Logic is as good as you can possibly get. So, and I found the live one was, I don't know, I find it a bit clunky, but maybe that's because I haven't been in it enough. Yeah. So what was the tipping point that sort of made you at least want to try Ableton, that should try the change? Curiosity, or? I saw how Tim was doing stuff in those courses, and then I'm like, oh, well, that seems kind of easy. Like, might as well try it. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, the community is really good, actually. I've never been happier, actually, with just the friendships that I've made on there.
and like
Yeah.
getting to know yourself as well. I think it's great that like higher profile guys like yourself, you know, mingle and get to know sort of, you know, regular people that are either just doing it for interest's sake or they want to try and get somewhere with music. It's great to get those sort of connections with people like yourself. It's really good.
Oh, thanks. Well, yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and you know, I'm pretty realistic about like where I'm at as a musician and stuff. And I know that, you know, I'm not going to be touring the world anytime soon. So for me, it's just more, you know, if I can help out other people with what I know and my experiences in the whole scene, then, you know, better off to other people. Because, you know, the people, as Tim mentioned too, like, you know, guys coming in fresh, like the biggest thing that you have to learn is expectation, right?
Yeah.
Because man, you can come in one in the world and you'll get crushed in like a day.
Yeah.
And you'll get crushed by things you never thought you'd be crushed by. So it's just managing those expectations and being really, really realistic about what you're after.
Yeah, I guess been fairly aware of what's the pitfalls and I guess the drawbacks of that sort of the music side of things, and you want to talk about the money side of it or whatever. But if you know that sort of stuff, it makes it really easy to just enjoy making music, especially if you've got a day job and you can basically do the juggling act and just try and make some time in your downtime from work. It's just a great outlet, which like this week I've just been buried in that track that you were just giving me some tips about. Which I actually did get it. I did get it finished and as rough and as good and as rough as I could. I sent it off to Tim, and he likes it. So he just gave me some tips on what to do better. And I did try those plugins too, the ones you recommended, which was the bass. Is it Max Bass? Was it?
Yeah, there's Max Bass, the LL3 multi maximizer, and then the Kramer tape. Yeah,
so that Kramer tape is wicked.
It's awesome. It just fattens out everything.
Yeah, I actually put it on on my percussion group.
Yeah.
And it just gave this nice little it actually sounded like an old school snare hit. Actually, just that little fluttery sort of extra little bump you get in the snare hit.
Yeah.
So just little things like that I liked, and then just adding those the max bass thing to the actual bass and a little bit to the kick too. It just really fattened it up. So yeah, thanks for those tips. That's really good.
Yeah, no, but like I said, you have to be the max bass one especially you have to be careful with, because if you throw your track on a system that has, you know, a bunch of subs underneath it, if you have too much of that going on, it'll put everybody in the bathroom pretty quickly.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I still remember the first time I played a track that I made where I used that plugin on, and I had it set full to the max when I bounced it out.
Yeah.
And I mixed it in. I turned up the bass knob on the mixer, and all of a sudden it was just. And my friend goes, "What the hell did you do?"
But when you were listening to it, I guess in your studio or in your monitors, it wasn't as full on as.
No, it just didn't. I mean, I didn't have a subwoofer at the time in my studio either, so
yeah,
you know, through the speakers it sounds fine. But you know, if you get a subwoofer in there and you feel those frequencies, you can tell pretty quickly.
Oh, that's really good. Or bad, but funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm out of questions, actually. I haven't got really anything else.
Okay.
I don't know
when
if
you coming to Mexico?
Well, actually, talking about that, just how everything's. There was some flat Earth thing on Facebook the other day, and then someone was it was Australia's Did you see that thing? Tim was commenting on it, and there was there's a patch of, was it paid actors and the place doesn't exist and all that.
Yeah.
So I was just commenting, and then when I actually typed in the time I've actually lived here and not gone anywhere, it's close to 40 years. I've actually really never left Australia, bar being born in Colombia and living there for a year when I was 4.
Yeah.
So, but apart from that, I've just been in Australia my whole life, and but just with music now, and just that the way that music seems to connect everyone. I just find that there's all these places I want to go to now, and I think it's time to start thinking about renting my house out and
nice.
Getting out there and just seeing things. So before I'm
what part of Australia are you from?
I live up in the NT in Darwin, so it's right up the top of Australia, which is,
okay.
It's only a little stone's throw from Papua New Guinea and all that, so it's right up the top.
Nice.
And similar.
I met this past year at Burning Man, actually, the one camp. There was a few Australians there, and there's one girl so she plays the cello while she DJed.
Oh, you videoed that on Facebook, didn't you?
Yeah. So we did a gig together at Burning Man where I DJed and she played on the cello, and it was really cool. But I forget where she's from. I'm wondering if she's close to you or not.
I'm not sure, but I know Emus. You know Emus, don't you?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he's down in Melbourne, but he went to Burning Man. I think he was there.
Yeah, that's probably part of the same group.
Yeah. And
Burning Man is crazy because, like, in one day you can meet people from 40 different countries.
I actually was going to ask about Burning Man. I remember now is one of my notes. So, how did you get involved in that one?
Well, the first time I went was 2003, and that was a whole wild adventure because there was no Facebook and there was no video or camera phones or anything. So it was literally like going into a different planet. Yeah. And there was only 25,000 people back then. So that was pretty crazy. Then we went back 2006 and then didn't go again until 2014, where I managed to get really lucky again. Going back to my radio show, there was a guy in the UK who had been listening to my show for about 4 or 5 years, and he got involved in the camp that was doing Carl Cox's stage. Yeah. So Carl decided to do a stage at Burning Man, and he got involved with it and threw my name into that for playing. So 2014 and 2016, I got to play on the playground stage there, which was his. Which that was pretty amazing. Didn't get to play this year because now all Carl's friends want to come play on his stage. But yeah, Burning Man it's such a cool experience because there's nothing like it in the world. Yeah. It's the art there is amazing. The fact that you can't buy or sell anything there, you have to bring in your own food, your own water. You gotta survive in this harsh desert. But there's so much more. Once you survive, there's so much more to take in and enjoy. And it's, you can go off your head for the week and just, go to parties all night, but then you could do stuff during the day, like more meditative, more cerebral stuff too. Yeah. But I've been 5 times now, and that was the week after. Someone's like, "Oh, are you going to go back next year?" And I always say no. But talk to me in, 3 months and I might change my mind. Yeah. Because right now it's more because over the years, the only time we see some of our friends from around the world is at Burning Man. So now it's kind of a meeting place for all those people. And the best thing I took out of it this year was the fact there's nobody, you're having a conversation and there's nobody on their phone like that. Yeah. Because you can't get cell service out there. You can't use your phone. Yeah. And that's the best part. You're like, oh, people are actually engaged on an actual human level, and they're not distracted, and no one's checking their email or checking their Instagram. And do you do any sort of? I'm guilty in that if someone took a photo of me on a dance floor, they'd see me with a phone in my hand. But it's only because I just want to have some kind of memory from the night. Mm-hmm. So I'll just walk around. I'm not even looking at my phone. I'll just be hanging out with people, just with my arm up and just recording just something of it,
just something really cool that's happening, and go, oh wow, that was that time. But no, I don't agree with checking emails and stuff like that. And no,
and I'm the kind of same way. Like I always hate when the headliner DJ comes on, everybody runs up to the front like that. But to have like one or two short videos from the course of a night, it's totally fun to look back on. I mean, the only reason people didn't do it 20 years ago is because they had to bring a giant video camera. But it's a tricky balance, because it's like I enjoy watching footage of like big events and festivals from before cell phones were popular, because people seemed a lot more into it. There's nothing worse than you're at a party and you're looking through 20 video screens before you even look at the stage. It's a tricky balance, because we all want to keep our memories, but at the same time, like if you're holding up your phone all night, you're not in the moment.
No, that's true. There's one thing I have noticed. I know it must have something to do with this is the professional camera stuff that happens on events and that. But just with the eyes in your head and you walk around, you see stuff, things look the way they look. They just seem like normal or cool or exciting. But then when you see those photos that the pros do, like those photos have just come back from Tim Penner and Boots and Cats thing. Like, he just looks really awesome. Even more than normal. So there is something about, I know it's different we're talking about professional cameras here, but there is something about getting those snapshots and looking back. It's, in some ways, they seem better than seeing it with your own eyes at the time. It's interesting you say that, because we became friends with the guy. His name is Doug Van Sant, and he's now the official photographer for a lot of the Insomniac events. So any of those big epic festival shots you see, that's probably him. And the amount of work, because he used to shoot the BPM festival here, and the amount of work and planning that goes into making those shots look a little better than the average person's phone it's incredible. Like, I remember being at the back of the one stage talking to him, and he's like, oh, you want to see something cool? I'm like, okay. So he clicks a button, and all of a sudden, like, flashes go off all around like the perimeter, and then like one click on his camera and the whole place is lit up perfectly. Oh, right. Oh,
like he has it all staged out where he can just click a couple buttons once in a while, and there's light coming from all the right angles, and that's when you see those shots perfectly lit when it's in the dark.
Wow.
It's just a whole different world, and super interesting though.
And you've got another job or an extra job now with Slideways?
I took on the task of, Tim wanted to do a bit of a rebrand on the Slideways label, so updating the logo and kind of the look for all the releases. He was doing everything himself, and so he wanted to kind of offload that and make it better. And me being, a graphic designer by trade, I offered to help him out with that. So I'm curious to see where that goes. I know he wants to, make it a little bit bigger in 2019. He's got Madeline doing the social media, so help out where I can. I mean, we're all family, I guess, now.
That's really cool. It's a good to be part of it.
And it's one of those things where you have, again, it's about having a relationship with the right person, and if, like yourself, like when you know someone and that will actually take a listen to what you've done just because you've built that relationship, like you could send tracks to him and, you can be on Slideways, or like if I come up with something, and I mean, he's already said, he's like, I want you to start remixing some stuff too. So just kind of breeds opportunity. So.
Honestly, the biggest thing for me, and probably for anyone that's, you could say, breaking through Ableton, actually getting comfortable with it. There is a part of self-belief, and we all have to drive ourselves to do things, but there is something really good about when other people either believe in you, or it's a massive help, which ties into, I guess, social media or pre-massive Facebook. What was it like for you to be? Was it more or less alone when it come to producing, and you pretty much just making stuff and then showing it to a friend or showing it, trying to find someone that will listen to it and give you some feedback?
Yeah. No, I mean, I had a couple other friends that produce as well. I got pretty lucky, I would say, early on. I think it was about 2011, 2012. I made a couple tracks, and kind of my idea when I started producing was to find a label and see if it matched up to the sound I wanted to make. And then, like, I wasn't going to be that person that just, sent something to 1,000 labels and said, "Oh, whoever signs it, sign it." The strategy was to, find the one you want to be on and get it to them first, wait 3 weeks. And if, you don't hear anything back, go to the next one. Well, I produced a couple tracks and I sent it to Juve because, that's when Juve was starting to come around again. The label was putting out some really kick-ass music. And in 2 weeks, Glenn from there got back to me right away. He's like, "Oh, we want to sign this." And I almost fell off my chair. I was like, "What?" Didn't expect it at all. I was like, seriously? But yeah, it was, sometimes you just kind of throw those Hail Mary passes up and then it lands. And then, after that, I sent another one to him. And then once you get to the stage where they're familiar with you, as Tim said, they're going to pay attention when something pops up in their inbox from you. And then, and the great part about that is they'll, when you have that relationship too, if you've done something that's crap, they'll tell you as well. And that's often more valuable than someone telling you, "Oh, that's good, and we'll sign it." I had that happen a couple years ago with John Double O Fleming. Because after I played the festival with him, we were in contact, personally. So I just started sending stuff to his personal email. And he's like, "We get 300 tracks a day now. And, if it's not the best of the bunch, it's not going to be signed." But I got his ear and he took a listen and he went through it. He's like, "Drums are fine, this is fine, but, some of these sounds pretty lazy and dated." And it was a little bit tough to take that criticism at first because I was like, "Oh, well, it wasn't lazy because I put 40 hours in this damn track." But after kind of ingesting that feedback, I was like, well, number one, that's pretty cool that a guy like that will spend the time to deliver that kind of feedback. Number two, it's good that he's honest. And number three, it was like a kick in the ass to go, "Okay, stop and listen to actually what you're making versus just plowing away thinking, this is good because I'm putting so much time into it."
Yes.
Yeah. I'm still, I'd have to say I'm a little bit gun shy about sending stuff to Juve still after that. But I still have that email from John, which I kind of keep in my desk. I'm like, when I think something is done, I read that email. I'm like, "No, it's not done yet."
That's really good. Yeah. We'll have to print that and frame it somewhere. I think he's expanded his team of people that do his, what do you call it? The promo, what is it? Promo pool? Is that what it is? With the demo, where they drop all the demos in. I think.
Yeah. No, he's got a few people now. He used to only have one, but yeah, he said 300 tracks a day. I couldn't imagine having to go through that much music and probably most of it being garbage.
Yeah, I think Adam Thomas is in there and Gary Delaney, maybe Daniel Lesden. Maybe Daniel Lesden, I'm not sure. So I know there's at least three in there that are there trawling through all the music. And actually Adam's told me a few times that a lot of he's just sifting through shit, honestly. It's just
Well, again, it's it's too easy to just fire up Ableton and throw in some sounds and think you have a track, right?
I know.
It's too easy to do that, and it's much more difficult to make something that stands out above all the shit.
Yes, but it's good that it's hard, I think.
Yes. If it wasn't hard, everybody would.
Yeah, it's easy to start, but it's hard to get it. Yeah, like you said, that last 10%.
Yeah.
How are you going for time? I just saw your little door open back there.
Oh, that's my wife. She's just going to yoga class. So.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like, go away, I'm busy. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You actually nailed another question that I think about ask, which was about sort of your relationship with John W. Fleming and with Joof. So we managed to nail that just through conversation, which is good.
Yeah, no, I've only hung out with him one time in person, but I mean, he was one of the most, just from my impression of that experience, was one of the most stand-up, honest, nice guys as far as big DJs go that I've probably ever met.
Yeah.
Because that night, well, I had talked to him a little bit beforehand, and so I played, and then he got on, and the first thing he said, he's like, well, come up after my set, and we'll hang out after. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure. And so I came up after, and it was a festival right in the middle of the mountains of British Columbia in Canada.
Yeah.
So beautiful place, and they put him in a cabin up on the hill, and where you could overlook the whole thing. And God, we hung out there for like 3-4 hours, like old men, talking music and everything else. And yeah, no, he was a really nice guy to hang out with, really honest. And, I like the things he says on Facebook and the things he's doing with, his own career and what he's doing with the label. Because there's a lot of guys that just kind of sell out to, what's happening. And I don't think he's ever done that.
Well, no, if anything.
Yeah, I was into his stuff. Some of my first CD compilations were his Reactivate ones from back in the late 90s. That big, before he got into Psytrance, he was still playing the Epic stuff. So. Yeah.
I've actually still got to get my hands on that stuff and never listened to it. I can't say I've done it. But I made a track that I sent to Adam a while ago. It was a bit Psytrancey. And Adam was like, nah, you know what? So John's not really into the Psy at the moment. He's pretty much knocking it all back. So
yeah, he's all his music lately has been pretty progressive. So
yeah. I think the only guys that he will let through with the Psytrance stuff is Steve Birch and the Digital Blonde.
Yeah.
I guess if Daniel Lesden was doing something, he'd probably let him through. But I think he's not taking a break, but he's a bit he's not. I think he might be. Is he stopping the podcast, the rave podcast, or you're not sure?
Yeah, I think I saw something he posted on Facebook a while back saying he was, done with things for a while, or shutting some things down. Which that happens. So
yeah, well, I shut down my thing for 6 months, and that was just trying to learn a bit of Ableton and trying to do the podcast at the same time. But I don't know. It's one of those things with your mind kind of plays tricks on you though, because you justify quitting, which is a good thing. But then you kind of when you start up again and you whatever doing better, you're like, well, did I really need to quit, or did I just need to just knuckle down and work through those those times where you go, no, it's just too hard and haven't got enough time and all that sort of stuff.
It's easy to throw up the roadblocks and the excuses. That's for sure. I've done it.
Well, I remember at the time I was doing, because I was on Progressive Beats Radio for a little bit, maybe 8 months.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And
I think I saw your name pop up there a few times.
Yeah, I was on there for 6 months, I think I was. And then I ended up just saying, I just can't do it. I can't, because they actually had a deadline, obviously. And I said, I can't do deadlines. And the Trancefusion thing was I could do it whenever I wanted. And then I was still trying to work on Ableton and still trying to work a job. So I decided just to can it all for a bit. But it's been, I guess it was good because it was a bit just, you just sort of recharge and think about things a bit and then get hungry and do it all again.
Yeah, no, you get that little taste of something again and kind of get the enthusiasm back. I know there are times with my monthly radio show, I haven't missed a month in 12 years. But there are definitely times where it's just like, oh, really? I got to do this again. But then you get that one message, that one email from some random person halfway around the world. And you're like, oh, I listened to your show and I thought it was awesome and blah, blah. And that's kind of what drives you forward. Yeah. I really don't know how guys like Tim do a weekly show though. That would just be too much.
And that's honestly, that's a question like I need, because you got to trawl through all the music, and I'm sure he's got loads of music that he loves, and on top of that, he's got to try and find stuff that works within a set. And then sort of remember what he's played before, unless he wants to recycle tracks. But I don't know how he does it either.
Because it's a lot of time invested into doing that. I mean, that's between that and running a record label. Almost, it's kind of like counterintuitive because it takes away from all your time from actually making music.
Yeah. So he must be a wicked time manager for himself. He has to be.
Yeah. Or he just doesn't sleep. I know him. He looks like he doesn't sleep sometimes, and always has that cup of coffee.
I think he survives on naps. That's what I've heard. I think he's
trained for his baby that's coming.
Yeah. Wow. Jumping in here, Wes and I got way off topic for a bit. Let's get back into the interview. I guess that's why you love guys like John that just stand strong. Means so much more too.
I mean, at the end of the day, like when you're in a wheelchair and you're done touring and whatever piles of money you have, are you going to look back and say you're proud of what you did, or are you going to say, well, I sold out and have this pile of money that no one cares about me now?
Yeah, I don't know. There's that saying, never meet your heroes and stuff like that, isn't there?
Yeah, well, I usually be disappointed.
I think there are exceptions, but sometimes when you hang out with the heroes long enough too, you find out they have little annoying habits and stuff, and it just
exactly
just like normal people, just like everybody else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair to like those guys too, like touring the world and everything sounds pretty glamorous, but when you're doing it 200 days a year and you're on planes by yourself, and every city you show up at, you quote unquote have friends that aren't really friends. I mean, that's got to be mentally insane after a while.
Well, honestly, I know like Tim is not been what would you call it, like a long-term touring DJ, but that was one of the biggest reasons why I wanted. One reason was I couldn't get down to Sydney, but I just wanted to actually give him something real that's there waiting for him when he arrives in his hotel. So
yeah, that was really cool what you did.
Man, because exactly what you're saying about that living out of a suitcase and doing all that. It is a bit, not, I guess in his case it wasn't, because it'd be pretty novel, because it was a new thing for him to do that. But still, as you can still look back at least and go, in that time of doing touring, it's like someone just, left something for him, and it was good.
Yeah, no, that was one of the coolest things that I've seen. I was like,
That's what you're saying, isn't it? It's like there's lots of people that are fans, and I support you and I'm your friend, but sometimes it's not really, I don't know what it's about in some ways. I think sometimes people just want to be known to know someone, I think. Is that what it is? Or?
Well, I mean, I have friends who, well, they're not close friends, let's just say, but their whole goal at any show is to like up and hang out like stage behind the DJ booth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's the fucking point? Like,
yeah.
Really? Like, the music doesn't sound as good back there. Well,
no.
Who gives a shit if no one cares that you're up there?
Actually, that's something I did read about, though, on the forums, was about, is it booth hopping or something, where just kind of like just go and check out people, the way they mix and stuff. Not to be like sort of fanboys, but just dudes or dudettes that just love to watch someone work their decks. And have you heard of people doing that sort of stuff? Or
I have, and I've done it myself too. Burning Man's actually a great place to do that, because no one really cares about stages and this and that, and there's no VIP area or anything. You kind of wander in and out whatever. And the craziest thing I had on that note was again, Carl Cox's stage. I wasn't playing that night, but I was up there, and I was literally standing a foot away from him while he was playing.
Yeah.
and he's having a full-on conversation with me. And he's got 4 decks going, and I'm just standing there in amazement, going, "Is this happening right now?
Yeah.
Like some kind of ghost, like guiding your hands because you're sitting here talking to me, but you're doing this and knowing everything that's going on."
Yeah, wow.
And blown away by that. And I mean, when I can sneak out there and from the vantage point of, again, seeing how other guys do it, as a DJ, like it's invaluable. But then, you know, you got to hang out with all the people that are like, "I'm upstage and I'm here and blah, blah, blah." Yeah. I'm like, no, I just want to stand in the back and see what the fuck they're doing.
Do you still learn stuff like DJing wise? Like not so much now. You got your...
That was a chance to learn, like, especially if guys come up there using different equipment.
Yeah.
Like the one year at BPM, we got to hang out behind the stage when Chris Liebing and Nicole Mudaber were playing. And I think they have every piece of gear from Native Instruments and Live up there at once, all connected together. That for me is cool because you're like, how are they controlling everything that's going on? They're playing back to back. They had 2 of the Model 1 mixers going too. So it was just ridiculous.
Is that a mixture of DJing or is it purely live performance and sampling?
It's a mix because I mean, there's Tractor going on one laptop, there's Ableton going on another one. They use and it goes back and forth. Like I remember Nicole having, you know, 3 tracks in Tractor with like a 4-beat loop going and just using that almost as effects, but then the main track coming out of Ableton, and then 10 minutes later it was completely reversed where there's 2 full tracks going in Tractor and then Ableton using effects. So yeah, it was just, I'm like, wow, this requires a lot of attention.
Yeah. And so this is
it's cool. For me, it's like geeking out, watching that stuff is a lot of fun.
And that's what Tim's doing to a certain degree this week.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see his live show with his album this coming Friday there. That's going to be pretty insane. Yeah. He's probably wiped off the map by now. Like, just coming back from Australia, got that show, got a baby on the way. But dude, so really, the rest of us have no excuse for not doing anything. Exactly.
That's probably what I motivate myself with now. I said, what Tim's been doing the last, you know, I guess the last 3 months really, because even the Tim Pennis session things it's a pretty big job to
that was huge undertaking.
Yeah, be organized and do all the, you know, I mean, not that I struggle, but I was doing this, like I've got to have my stuff all organized, have my questions and have all my tech. I need to have my power go out and everything go to shit before we started. But yeah, like he's like you said, he's done it on purpose though. He said he's crammed everything in then and up until now, and then he's basically free. Well,
the classes he did, I mean, from a financial perspective, that was brilliant on his part too, because that's a nice chunk of money there. You know, if he had 30 people in the online ones, another 30 or 40 in the live ones, that's good on him. Yeah, but you know, you really break it down though. It's just the price was, from a user point of view, the price was nothing. I know. It's priceless, actually, in a way. You can't put a value on it. Sort of going forward from those sessions. That dude did a good job doing those timestamps. I was going to do it. I was a bit pissed off at myself. I was too lazy to do it, so he got in first. That's a big amount of effort that guy did. I was surprised when I saw that too. Cool shit. You got to get going, or? Yeah, I got to get going now. This was awesome. Oh, geez, almost 2 hours already. Yeah, it's a lot of content. I'll sift through it. All right. Well, thanks for jumping on here and being part of the show. Yeah, it was cool. Good to chat. Yeah, I'll try and get to Mexico. I promise I'll get there one day. Are you going there? You going to leave there? The last thing I want to do is go plan a trip and everybody moves. Well, I don't know. I've been here 4 years and it still only feels like one. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I won't be here for a while yet, I think.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll try and get myself down there in the next couple of years or so.
Yeah. If you do come, best time is right after Christmas, right in January. Just everything you want to have happening here at that time, musically anyway.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll keep it in mind.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, man.
Good chat. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
That wraps up this month's interview with Wes Straub. Once again, a very big thank you to Wes for being part of the interview series, sharing his experiences, stories and knowledge over the last hour and a half. Taking us out now is Wes's own favourite track, The Roof, released on Modern Agenda. Thanks for tuning in and look forward to presenting a new guest next month. Until then, bye for now.